Hi guys, Paul here. And if you're a book collector, which I'm assuming we all are, then you probably have books on your shelves that you consider rare or valuable or just your favorites or have stories behind them that make them important to you. And I was thinking about some of the books I have that are just bring me joy, just books that I like the covers of or that are valuable. At least I think they're valuable. I've never looked up the prices on them or anything. They seem like they're rare to me. And I wanted to show off some of the books off of my shelves that you may not have seen or that are important to me. And I will at the end show you a book that I know has to be pretty valuable because technically it's one of a kind and it's a very rare Stephen King item. And I am the only person in the world who actually owns this item as is. So I thought maybe you'd want to take a look at some books with me. And I'm actually going to start with something that I forgot to show in my book haul that just passed that I just got. And it could qualify for this as well. It's still wrapped in paper. I did open it. I was going to show it in the book haul, and like I said, I set it aside and forgot about it. This actually comes from Rothwell and Dunworth Antiquarian Booksellers in Somerset, England. I think I see I don't know if it'll focus, but I can't really see there. But in any case, so this is new. So it is called, it's the hardcover original edition of Siege at Makui by Derek Wright. And this book is pretty hard to find, pretty rare. It's a fictionalized account of a battle, a siege on a French position during the Indochina War. And I had heard good things about this, and when I heard about it, it kind of just caught my attention, and I went looking for it, and I got a good deal for it from this antiquarian bookshop. So I thought I would show it here. It's a good time to do it since I forgot to put it in the book haul. Hopefully that focuses. I cannot see the camera. I said this comes from Rothwell and Dunworth Limited Antiquarian Booksellers. So that's actually brand new. And I'm going to go through some of the books now. Some of them are just stuff I like. Some of them have stories. Whether they're important to me or they're actually physically valuable. It's a whole different gamut of things from my shelves. So I'm going to start with this. It has no real value as far as money goes, but the story behind it still makes me happy. I bought this from a used bookstore. Only Psychos by Daniel J. Volpe. It's a splatterpunk horror novel. And I got it used. And when I opened it up, not only is it autographed, but it's inscribed, and the inscription caught my attention, and I couldn't figure out why right at first, because it's to Judith, keep pumping out amazing horror, there's snow escape. And I'm like, so this was signed to another horror author, and I went and looked it up, and it actually was Judith Sonnet, who is a pretty popular splatterpunk extreme horror writer, and I got in contact with her. And this was indeed her book that she had to give up when she had some financial issues. And we became friends on Facebook. But so there's a story behind it, and that's why it's kind of unique to me. I just thought it was a fun little story. Anyway, so how about this? Not a lot of people are going to appreciate this, but this is Harry Potter, obviously, but this is a copy from Iceland. It's still sealed. It's never been opened. I've never read it or anything because it's written in a language I don't read. But I just thought it was cool. It's something that's been on my shelves, something I'm keeping. It's the only book I have from Iceland. And I like foreign editions of books sometimes just to have them. But I thought it was kind of neat, so I thought I'd show it here. So I just want to show you a few books that I love as far as covers and stuff. I went looking for Brian Aldiss's Hot House Forever, and I finally found an affordable copy, and I'm dying to read this, but I don't want to open it because it took me so long, and it's actually pretty expensive to find online. I've seen it go regularly for $50 for this book. I got it for, I think, $10, and I was thrilled to do it, and it's in great shape. But just having it, it's usually behind me, but I just wanted to show it because it is, in my mind, valuable. These are just a few of my favorite covers that I pulled off the shelf real quick. Jack Vance's Narrowland. Hopefully this is focusing. I apologize if it's not. I cannot see for the life of me what's happening. So, Jack Vance's Narrowland, which is a collection of Jack Vance stories, and I love the cover. I got a second copy of Frederick Brown's Martians Go Home because I love the cover. I have a really beat up copy I'm going to read, and this is my to keep copy. So I just love the cover, and that's one of the reasons I pulled it down. And one of my favorite Clifford, I have pretty much every Clifford D. Mac book, and I got to get to reading more of them, but this is one of my favorite covers. It's Out of Their Minds, and the cover is just fantastic. Yeah, it's just something I love the cover of, and just wanted to show you. It is a the yellow spine is kind of gone, but the cover is still looking good. So that's just a few random paperbacks, a few of my favorite covers I want to show you. This is a little more rare. One of my favorite books, probably my top 3 favorite books, somewhere in there is Fahrenheit 451. And my wife, for Father's Day this year, got me an edition of it that not only has the original Guy Montag Fire Chief identification card with it. This actually came out of a Ray Bradbury collector's library. Excuse me, I can't talk today. Came out of a library, one of their library. Can I start again? This actually came out of the library of a Ray Bradbury collector in California. So you can see it's a Guy Montag identification card. Hopefully that focuses, because that would be sad if it didn't. And here's the book, and inside is actually autographed by Ray Bradbury. And like I said, this is one of my top 3 favorite books ever. So having my wife get me a autographed copy was awesome. And there is obviously some value to it financially, but you know, the value of me owning this with the Guy Montag Fire Chief Captain Beatty service card is kind of really cool. So there's those. Let me get that out of the way. So when I talk about my reading journey, what created me as a reader, I never seem to remember to include the fact that one of the things I read most growing up was sports books. Sports had a huge influence on all of my life, and that included reading. And one of my favorites was actually Fighting Back by Rocky Bleier. Now, I don't know if you know the story. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but Rocky Bleier was a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll get back to the book in a second. I want to hold it up. I'll get tired. He was running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he got drafted into Vietnam and went to Vietnam, and he got really injured. He got shot multiple times, and there was 3 times, and took shrapnel from a grenade. So he was shipped home and told, son, you're probably never going to walk again, and your football career is definitely over. Well, the Steelers never gave up on him. They kept him on the roster and paid him and took care of all of his medical bills and helped train him. And not only did he come back and play football and have a long career and win 4 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but along with Franco Harris, they became the first duo to ever both rush for 1,000 yards in a season. So he was not only able to come back as a football player, but he was able to exceed at it. And he had a lot of influence on me growing up, you know, that story and such. And I have this copy right here, which is actually autographed by him. But not only that, but I have my original copy. The one that started it all, the one I bought when I was a kid and still had. This came out, it was written in 75, came out in 76. So that will tell you there was a lot of influence on me reading sports books. Not only this, but, you know, Kenny Stabler and Craig Nettles and a bunch of other people. And I read a lot of sports books, and I never remember to talk about that. I think maybe it's because YouTube doesn't really focus on any sports things, so you kind of get it pushed off. There's a lot of sci-fi and horror and fantasy, but sports books don't get talked about, don't get a lot of love, so you kind of get them pushed back of your mind. But yeah, this was the original. They made a movie out of this, a TV movie out of this in the 70s, starring Robert Urich. But yeah, this was very influential on me as a person, who I became, and very influential on me as a reader, this and other sports books. So I wanted to share that because I've never had a chance to talk about that. So I've never gotten to read this. I actually bought a paperback version of this as well so I could read it. This is Lucius Shepard's Life During Wartime. This is a first edition in absolutely fantastic shape, and it was put into plastic by whoever owned it. I'm just thrilled to have a copy of this on my shelf, and I really want to read the book, but I haven't gotten to it yet. So it's one of the books that brings me joy that's on my shelf. Here's what I believe is a fairly rare book. It's called The Overlords of War, and it was written by Gerard Klein, and it was actually translated by John Brunner. So both of them worked on this book apparently. It's a Doubleday science fiction book, and in the back you can see Gerard Klein and John Brunner. And I don't see this book like anywhere, and I want to get to it and read it as well. I say that about a lot of things, don't I? You can only read so much in a day, right? So this is originally a French science fiction book, and it may have had some influence on the rather famous book Player of Games, because it has some similar ideas. But yeah, French book, Gerard Klein, translated by John Brunner, and like I said, I don't see this anywhere. So if anybody else has it or seen it or read it, say so. This one is just a cover thing. It's called Tales from a Talking Board. It is a book about it's short stories about it's short stories about Ouija boards, and it's just the cover I love on this. And I'm sure it's not valuable in any way, shape, or form. I just happen to love the cover. So, yeah. Pretty cool, though. Howard Waldrop's Them Bones. This is the first edition of this. And it's another book I want to really get to. It's a science fiction book about diverging timelines and such. And I'm interested in reading it, and I love the cover, and I love having this on my shelf. And like I said, it's a first edition, so I'm very happy to have this. Hopefully you can see. Hopefully this is all focusing for you. So this isn't rare or anything. Everybody seems to have this now, and everyone knows what it is, but it brought me a great deal of joy to have it. This is the Best of John Campbell, the Del Rey Collector's Series, whatever it was. This is the book club edition, and this is the book that has Who Goes There in it, the story that inspired the book, the story that inspired the movie, The Thing. And so I'm just happy to have it, and like I said, a lot of people are now showing that off that have this. This is Omega by Christopher Evans, another science fiction book, and this is one of the limited editions. It's not the most limited edition, but this one does have the beautiful end papers, and it is. Well, I wish I could figure out what number that is on there, but it is signed and numbered, and the number makes no sense to me. I can't read it for the life of me. It looks like MO, so, or maybe it's just 110 and his ones are weird, but in any case, this is a special edition of Christopher Evans Omega, and I like it. So this is a first edition of Joe Haldeman's 1968. And you know probably him from Old Man's War and whatever, but this is his Vietnam book, and a lot of what he wrote, including the Forever War, was based on his experiences in Vietnam, and so we kind of use that as inspiration for his science fiction. And I thought it'd be great to read a more direct interpretation of his story from Vietnam, and as I said, this is a first edition in a beautiful shape, and I'm just thrilled to have it. So I actually have two of these. Mightier Than the Sword by K.J. Parker. They're both signed and numbered. This one's 627 out of 1000. like I said, hopefully you can read that. And I did manage to find 2 copies of it. And I've got them from thrift stores, believe it or not. And this is 89 out of 1,000. So I have 2 copies of that one. And I have one more autographed book by K.J. Parker. This is Downfall of the Gods. This is also numbered and signed. This is 967 out of 1,000. So if you don't know, K.J. Parker is also known as Tom Holt. He writes a lot of humorous fantasy, but this is his alter ego where he writes much more serious, much more, deep thought books. And he only releases them in limited editions. So they're really hard to come by in physical copies normally, because he only releases them in like $1,000 prints of each book. So those are, for me, having those is really cool. This is a slipcase edition of Lucius Shepard's The Father of Stone. And watch me struggle with this. Really interesting artwork on it. And this is only one of 500, numbered 134. And it is not only signed by Lucius Shepard, but J.K. Potter, the artist, as well. And you might want to remember that name, J.K. Potter, because it's not the only thing I have with his name on it. So the art is, obviously, in this case, would be the cover art. So, but yeah, Lucius Shepard. So I have more than one Lucius Shepard in here, as you can see. So, The Father of Stones. So again, a Lucius Shepard. This is actually a Subterranean Press book, and they also release them in small batches, so they're kind of hard to find. Well, very, very hard to find in a lot of cases. And this one, and this is nice. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like almost, it's meant to be like dragon skin, and it's very, it's, it feels like it. It's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know, I've never pet a dragon, but what I assume a dragon is supposed to feel like. And this is, there's only 500 of these and 26 lettered copies. I have number 235 and signed by Lucius Shepard. So, very cool. Like I said, Subterranean Press puts out these special editions, and they're hard to find. I was lucky enough to find this one. And it's about dragons. I have the complete Sherlock Holmes Memorial Edition. These were put out in, was it 1930? And it's like the complete collected editions of Sherlock Holmes. They're very old, and I'm not sure if they're valuable. They might not be, but they're valuable to me. And like I said, they're old. Very, very old. And this one was the person who first owned it, Flora W. Locke, September 1930, inside that. And I'm a big fan of Sherlock Holmes, and there is a little bit of separation in here. I'm trying to be careful with them. This is volume 2 of the 2. You can see the Doubleday imprint. And here's number 1. They're not in perfect shape, but like I said, I'm a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes, and just having these is nice. They're hard to read and not do damage to. And again, Flora W. Locke, 1930. I don't know who she is. I bought them from a used book dealer. I think I paid like $2 for them. I don't think he cared. The store isn't in business anymore, and it's not surprising when you get rid of something like that for $2. But in the first collection, you can see it down here at the bottom. You probably can't see. It says first edition, and the dates on this actually say 1905 and 1917 by Doubleday, Duran and Company. So, if you know more about these books, if you can tell me more about the history of this compilation, let me know, because I don't know a lot about them. And like I said, this one says 1930, so I'm assuming they came out in 1930. But this book right here it's about Ray Garton, or by Ray Garton, and it has artwork in it that I would love to be able to show you, but I'm not going to be able to get away with it on YouTube because it's a little adult in nature. I don't know if you know who Ray Garton is. He's a pretty famous horror author. And this is a special edition of The New Neighbor from Charnel House. And they only put out a few of these, and mine's a little beat up because, let's see, show you the inside papers, cover the butt, so nobody gets mad at me. So this was put out in 1991, and it was a limited edition from Charnel House. And it has the stories in it, but it has incredibly weird art throughout the entire book. And this is also J.K. Potter's art in here. And I'm going to try and find some art and cover, and cover up some of the stuff that may be offensive, so you can get a good look. Apologies. This one's not so bad. It's just scarring. Isn't it weird how we think horror's okay? Graphic violence. Oh boy, I can't show that one. That's really bad. That's X-rated. Can't really show these. I'd like to. Patience, please. I'll try and cover this up best I can. But there's some extra bit of extreme photography and art in here. We'll call it a day there. It's too hard to keep finding these and covering them up. But if you go to the back, there was only 500 of them released, and this is signed again by J.K. Potter and Ray Garton. But the thing is, if you see, there's no number here, because this was a test printing one. So this is actually the test printing, which I knew somebody who worked at a bindery, and they grabbed it for me, and they only run off like one of these, so this is unique to itself. This may only be the only one there is. This isn't a book, but I got a kick out of it. You probably know, if you're a Stephen King fan, you probably know who Joe Hill is. And I was going in for a procedure on my brain years and years and years ago, and my buddy Dave thought it'd be funny to send me something. What he sent me was Lock and Key that they were selling at the time. And if you know Lock and Key, it's a comic book series written by Joe Hill, and it became a TV show. It was on for a few years, and it's the original though, the comic key. So it's the head key from the comic, and they only made so many of these. He thought it was funny because I was going in for work on my head, and so he sent me a head key, and it is autographed by Joe Hill. So it's not a book, but it's book related. And so I promised you a rare Stephen King object, and this isn't it, but just showing you I have this. I saved this all these years from the TV movie when it was released on The Shining, the TV guide. In case you kids don't know what a TV guide is, there's a magazine that came out that told you what was on all the channels. Yeah. Talk to your parents. So anyway, yeah. I have that, but that's not what I wanted to show you. Just thought it was cool. I have a book called Whispers. This book was indeed very rare. So you can see the inside art. This was a limited edition run. They only made like a couple of these. They only put out these Whispers edition every once in a while. Then there was only a few of them ever put out. But it has some editorial. Welcome to our Stephen King issue of Whispers. So this is the Stephen King issue of Whispers, and it has some rare stories in it and such on The Shining and other perpetrations. So this is where he talks about The Shining. Gives you some inside stuff. This is Before the Play by Stephen King. And there's some other authors in here too. This is David J. Shaw, which I think he wrote one of the paperbacks from Hell. I'd have to check on it. The Riff, maybe it was. So that's in there as well. I think I'm doing it from memory, but It Grows on You by Stephen King, which turned into an episode, part of the anthology, the Creepshow anthology. There's some interesting art in here that comes out of Norwestcon. And other stories, like I said, Steve Rasnick, he was a horror writer as well. Can't remember what he did, I just remember the name. Robert Chilson. But this is considered the Stephen King edition. There's other writers in here. Alan Kushner, Lisa. So another Lisa Tuttle, who you might know from the Paperbacks from Hell stories. She had some entries in there. Richard Lupoff, David Campton, Janet E. Morris, David Drake has a story in here. Some more art. A Night on the Docks by Freff. I don't know who Freff is, but it caught my attention. But anyway, so what makes this so rare is the fact that there's only 350 numbered copies of this book made and 26 lettered copies. So, and it's signed by Stephen King. But if you notice, it says this is copy. This is also a test print copy. And as far as I know, as far as I'm told, this is the only one in the world that exists that's still out there. So this book is rare enough as being 350 numbered and 26 lettered copy, autographed by Stephen King. But this is the only unnumbered copy that, as far as I know, exists in the world. So yeah, if you know differently, if you know something different than I do, please tell me. I'm going by information I have. But anyway, this is one of my favorite possessions. I am a Stephen King fan, have been since I was a kid. So this is rare and special to me, and I wanted to share it with you. And I hope you appreciate it. And if you know anything about any of these books, if you know something I don't know or have a comment, I'm not right about everything, let me know. Feel free to tell me. I'll be glad to listen. But I just wanted to be able to share some of what I thought were special books to me with you. And I hope you don't mind. Thanks you for showing up. So I'd appreciate it if you'd like I said, comment. Tell me about these books. Tell me if you know something I don't. I want to know, because the more information I have about the books, the better it is for me. And please subscribe if you're interested and you are not subscribed to me. I have a lot of book stuff coming up that you may be interested in. So I'd love to have you here. I'd love to have you part of the pack. So subscribe so you can come back and see what I have to offer. Remember, the secret to Zen: pet dogs, read books, listen to heavy metal. Thanks. Hope to see you again.